Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 10th and tonight's movie is Under the Shadow. Under the Shadow is a film from the Middle East. I believe that the countries it came from besides the UK were Qatar and Iran, so that makes this a foreign language movie. What are the odds of getting two foreign language movies in a row? Probably still less than getting majority of the not found footage movies in the first 10 days. Anyway, this is about a family of three, a mom, a dad, and a daughter, and the dad has to go to war, leaving the mother and the daughter alone in the house, and there's like a missile strike on the building that they're living at, but the bomb doesn't go off, but apparently the bomb brought evil spirits with it. I think they're called jinns. It's like DJINNS. So like a lot of horror movies, this one is the mother trying to protect her child. I think it's interesting to see horror movies that are not even from America or Canada or Europe. They're from a very different cultures, like Japan, Korea, or the Middle East, because those cultures have their own legends and their own ideas of what's scary. I'll go back to you with the review when I'm done watching. Okay, that was pretty good. I'm giving Under the Shadow an 8 out of 10. There are some issues here and there, but overall it's a solid horror movie. This movie takes place in 1980s Iran in the middle of the war between Iraq and Iran, and there's a lot of threats for bombings, and the cities become dangerous because the other side keeps launching missile strikes. And the main character is Shadeh, who is a mother. She's not a single mom. Her husband did get drafted to fight. Not fight. He's a medic to go to the front line, so it's still really dangerous. And right after he leaves, a missile hits the apartment building that she and her daughter are staying in. But even though the missile doesn't go off, it brings jinn, which are these evil spirits that attach to the wind. It doesn't even have to be wind. It's they can ride on fear and anxiety, which is very common during war times. And it does what a lot of ghosts in movies do, which is make the people in the house hate each other. I think a nice touch in this movie is that they made it clear early on that the daughter, Dorsey, likes the dad more than the mom. It's not like she hates the mom, but when she was having a nightmare, she was calling her dad's name. She lit up when her dad came home from work and didn't really do that when her mom came home. And then the dad had to leave, and now there's bad energy coming in from this missile, and it's making the tension between the two of them even worse. And I have to say, this movie did a very good job at making me feel the amount of stress and strain that this mother is going under through all this. That aspect of the movie was done very well. When it comes to horror, this movie does leave some to be desired because of its reliance on jump scares. In fact, this movie commits one of the biggest sins any horror movie can do in that they followed a quiet scene with a scene that directly begins with a loud noise. This movie legit tries to jump scare you with toast coming out of a toaster. There are also a few other examples of jump scares in this movie. Some of them are more cheap than others, but I think that what they had as a concept was good enough at building some of the tension, and they really didn't need to add that. This movie also does very well the thing of it's not exactly what you see, it's more of what you don't see. It's also a lot like the Babadook in the fact that once things start going down, this woman is under so much strain that it's kind of unclear how much of what you're watching is actual supernatural things happening, how much of it is in the mom's head. Overall, while it's not as good as the Babadook, this is a pretty good movie in the same vein. I felt for the characters, it had decent atmosphere, and even though it did have some jump scares, for a lot of the times the horror was done pretty well. I would say check it out, it's pretty good. Now I want to go into some spoilers. One thing this movie did that I kind of wish it didn't do is sort of do what the Babadook did, which is even until the very end, it's kept ambiguous whether it's supernatural or just the mom going crazy. And in this one, they pretty soundly answer that it is something supernatural happening to them. But on that subject, some of the effects in this movie are very good. They represent the jinn. The jinn are not actually given shapes. They're not given physical forms. But what they do is that they have, blankets that take, humanoid shapes, almost like a Dementor, and they, fly around and do stuff. But I think the best effect in the movie was towards the very end, where the mother was like hears her daughter screaming, which is weird because her daughter's right in front of her, but she hears her daughter scream back at the house, and she runs back in and then sees like the daughter getting dragged under the bed. And then when she grabs the ants, like the daughter is wearing like a hooded jacket, and then like she looks up and it's literally just a mouth. There's no face. There's just like a mouth. And that was a really good effect. Probably the strongest aspect of this movie is how they develop the character of Shiva, because like you see a lot of her insecurities and things that she would worry about being laid out, and you see those things getting exploited by the Jinn. There's also definitely the element of like pride and stubbornness going into this, because for pretty much the entire thing, everybody around her, including her husband, they're encouraging her to leave the apartment building and go live with the husband's parents. And I think that they form it so that she doesn't want to do that because that would mean admitting defeat. And she had taken so many losses. She, because she was involved in like a political thing, she lost the ability to continue her medical studies. And she lost her mother recently. So all that thing was just like, it's just the feeling that she can't do anything right. And the Jinn know that. They exploit that. They like pretend to be her husband on the phone and like call her useless or like a terrible mother. And like the Jinn will say to the daughter, it's like, I would take better care of you than she would. And it's very sad, in addition to also just being chilling. But I don't think that they quite stuck the landing with this movie. There isn't like any admission of change or like things like maybe I do need help or anything like that. The thing where she ultimately wins over her daughter is I'm sorry, I'm trying my best, and that's just a little bit too simple for a movie like this. She does like save her from the Jinn. Like the daughter gets dragged into this giant sheet that takes up an entire room, and like the mother goes in and saves her. And then there's like a moment a little bit later where the daughter saves her because the floor like turns into like mud or tar and she gets stuck, but the daughter helps pull her out. But I think that if they were going to go with that, they should have just gone all the way and have it be a relatively happy ending where they leave and the Jinns stop bothering them, but they leave it open and ambiguous, because one thing that they say in the movie is that once they take something special from you, they will be able to follow you anywhere. And they show at the end of the movie that the doll that the daughter was looking for the entire movie, basically, and a textbook that was very dear to the mother, they're still at the apartment building, and that sort of cheapens the growth and that type of stuff that we just saw in the fact that it might not even be enough. If you compare this to the ending of The Babadook, in that one, it's made very clear. You know that it wasn't a permanent solution. You know that things are going to get bad again, and it's only a matter of when, and then the movie ends. And this one, it's like, maybe, maybe not. It felt like it was setting up for a sequel, which I'm pretty sure they never made. I would still recommend The Babadook over this movie, but from an objective standpoint, Under the Shadow is a very well done horror movie. And that's the review. I'll see you tomorrow.